I'm Kira Jo, welcome to my channel. Today's video is a chatty get ready with me, and I am getting ready to go to a dinner with friends. I decided for today's video, I just wanted to do my makeup how I actually do it in the order that I normally go. So I usually start with my brows. I overplucked this area when I was a teenager, like many people did. And so like this part of my eyebrow comes down a little lower than everything else. And I just try to get a nice straight line when my eye is at this angle to the mirror. And I try to fill in like this area where there's a gap and this whole area where there's a gap. And this brow pencil was sent to me by Deck of Scarlet, and I think it's a decent brow pencil. It's pretty similar to the Anastasia Brow Wiz. And then I like to go in with a brow pen afterwards and actually draw in hairs. I'm not used to doing my makeup for camera, so this is very interesting for me to get used to. I want to try to explain to you how my film setup is. So I can't see anything that's on the screen while I'm filming. I don't have a monitor, and I can't even tell if it's filming when I have the camera going. And so if I have my hand in front of my face or something, that's why. And then also if I go out of focus for a long period of time, it's because I have to remember to sit a certain way on my chair, and then I have like a marker for myself. Like I have a light stand off to the side, and I know that if my face is even with that light stand, I'm in focus, but if I come forward, I'll be blurry, and if I come back, I'll be blurry. Anyway, there's like so many things for me to remember while I'm filming, and I'm sure it will get better. As I film more, I'll get more into a groove and get used to it. This brow pencil, I think the color is pretty good for my eyebrows, and the formula is kind of dry, which I prefer. It's not super creamy, so it doesn't end up leaving big chunks or streaks of color that I don't want. So I think it's pretty good. Today, what I'm doing my makeup for, we are spending some time with some friends. We're gonna do a little dinner tonight at their house, and I'm bringing the dessert. I made some homemade tapioca pudding because I'm kind of obsessed with homemade tapioca pudding. But also, my husband and I have been trying to eat less sugar for the last 2 months. Just really trying to cut back and not eat any added sugar. So we've been eating more fruit. We've also still been eating dark chocolate that has a very small amount of added sugar, but we've been cutting out ice cream and candy and milk chocolate and desserts for the most part, and soda. Like we really love root beer floats and ice cream. And anyway, we haven't been doing any of that. And so I made this tapioca pudding today. It was the first sugar I'd eaten in a little while. Normally tapioca pudding seems so mild, like not very sweet at all to me. And because I haven't been eating it, any sugar hardly, it's so sweet. I had some, I was like, this is the sweetest thing I've ever eaten. This brow pen is from Milani. This is the Weekend Brow, and I really like it. I think it does take some getting used to. Like there was a little bit of a learning curve when I started using it, where I would apply way too much and it would just look like I had taken a marker to my eyebrows. But I've gotten used to it. I think the tip is a good size, and it lasts me like a year. Something that I really love with an eye look is a mix of warm and cool, whether that's, you know, brighter colors or more subtle. I really like having some warm tones and some cool tones in the same look because I think it provides a nice contrast. Sort of like how having lights and darks in the same look gives some good contrast. So I would like to do kind of a contrast of gold, kind of warm golden tones, but also some cool periwinkle purple leaning tones for the depth. And I'm gonna be bouncing around in different palettes because like I said, I want this get ready with me to be how I actually do my makeup. I grabbed the Natasha Denona Triochrome palette, Oden and Annette's Makeup Corner, Giant Wolf's palette. And then I also grabbed this Flower Beauty Desert Lights because I know the shimmers in this are really pretty. They're very shimmery. I also pulled out ColourPop Tea Garden because I have a goal to use all of my single shadows at least 10 times. And that one I don't think has reached 10 times yet. And so sometimes I pull out shadows just because I want to make sure I get more use out of them. And I thought that one might be an interesting thing to throw into the mix. So that's what we're working with today. Starting with Milani Eyeshadow Primer, because I usually do my eyes and then my face. And I have dry skin, by the way. I don't know if I've really shared that much on Instagram, but I have pretty dry skin naturally, and so I do a ton of skincare before I do my makeup. So at the start of my videos, if I don't have makeup on and I'm looking real shiny, it's because I do so much skincare. I do kind of a toner, a serum, multiple moisturizers. Sometimes I put an oil on top. I did not do an oil on top today. What you're seeing, the shine today is just from my moisturizers because that ensures that my makeup will go on a little more smoothly. If I don't do this much skincare before I do makeup, it does not sit well. I'm gonna use the Natasha Denona Triochrome palette first. I think I'm gonna be sticking to like this color and this color. I love the Natasha Denona mattes, and this palette I got on Black Friday on a sale, and I chose this one because I really loved how many mattes were in it, and I liked the tones of the mattes. There are mostly purples and greens in this palette, plus there's some peaches and a couple of multi-chromes. I know the multi-chromes were kind of the draw of this palette when it came out, but compared to the ones that I have from Clionadh, they're just not as impressive. I still like them, but I bought this one for the mattes, not for the shimmers. It has a good amount of these almost pastel leaning tones. I kind of want to get the pastel palette. I think maybe the next time that one goes on a good sale, I may pick it up. And at the same time, it's not like I don't have similar shades, but I really like how the Natasha Denona palettes, you can pull the shades out and use them as singles, and you can do custom color stories, which I think is great. So this is what the Giant Wolves palette looks like. This one is now discontinued, but I really like the shades in it. I will probably from time to time use discontinued eyeshadow palettes on my channel because I don't want to not use my palettes that I have. Something I am pretty passionate about with my makeup is actually making sure I get use out of it. So I don't pan products. I don't do project pans and stuff like that, but I do like to track my usage and know how many times I'm using each palette and how many times I'm using each single shadow. And I'm going in, by the way, with this shade and this shade kind of mixed together. So I want to make sure I'm actually using my makeup, and I also want to make sure I'm promoting using your makeup and not letting it sit wasted after the release hubbub dies down. I do no buys and low buys occasionally. Actually, I would say I'm always on a low buy. Everybody's different in their budget and what they can afford and what they want to purchase for their collection and what their goals are with their makeup, but I try not to buy too many palettes every year. I've mostly just bought wet liners actually this year. Wet liners and just restocking on things that I run out of because I have so much makeup at this point. And I think those shades blended together in a really pretty way. I like that a lot. Try to even this out. I'm a little bit patchy right here. I don't really think it's the eyeshadow. I think it just has to do with how I was blending it because I don't have issues with these generally. When I throw in ColourPop Tea Garden, I don't know for sure how that's going to interact with these other shades because it is very different. But like I said, I like to mix the cool tones and the warm tones, so we'll just see what happens. And I'm gonna do a little layer of that first, and then I'm gonna do mostly just golds on top of it, because Tea Garden kind of has this rusty base tone to it, and I'm not so much trying to bring that out. I mostly just want a little bit of the gold and the green of that color to show. And it's a pretty subtle duochrome, but it's kind of got a rusty base, and then it's got a green gold flick. I am going to use a little bit of NYX glitter glue because I want to make sure that that sticks. It's a little bit of a drier shadow, and I've also had it for a pretty long time. I would guess that one is at least 3 years old, so it's not a brand new shadow, and the ColourPop formula isn't super creamy anyway, at least it's not for their older shadow. I do think they've changed their formula quite a bit since Tea Garden, because that one's a pretty old shadow. That one's been around for a long time. Yeah, I think we can work with this. So there's Tea Garden, and I think this is gonna work pretty well. This is the kind of look, I do like looks like this for when I'm going to social gatherings and things like that with family or friends, because it's still got some color, which makes me happy, but it'll be a little more of a subtle color, a little more subtle, but still obvious. It's like subtle but obvious. This is the same brush I was using that bluish color on, and I'm just gonna blend that a little bit. I also decided I wanted to add in some Clionadh singles, so I'm adding a little bit of Clionadh Opulent because it's just really pretty. I need other words for pretty so that I'm not just constantly saying it. And I don't mean just other alternatives like saying lovely or beautiful or something. I want to be a little more creative with it and say stuff like, this shadow is like if an angel kissed you on the forehead. It has kind of a mauve purple leaning base, so I figured it would be easy to mix in. And I think you can still see a little bit of Tea Garden, although Opulent might have taken it over. It has a lot more texture and a lot more oomph to it. It's kind of a funny word, oomph. I have sparkle everywhere. Do you ever, at the end of the day, realize that there is sparkle all over your face and your clothes and your pillow? I usually am pretty good about washing my makeup off, but sometimes I sleep with my makeup on and it'll be kind of sparkly makeup. Or even if I've washed it off. Some of these shades that are so sparkly and textured, they don't wash off all the way. I double cleanse and I do skincare and everything, but it just doesn't all come off. So sometimes I wake up in the morning and it looks like there's fairy dust on my pillow. I want to put some of Adornment, which is so shiny and amazing. Makes me think of that crab in Moana. So shiny. And I'm just gonna put a little bit of that there, the inner third. And I do still want to add Flower Beauty palette. Like I said, I do like to bounce around quite a bit with my eyeshadows. This very golden shade here. I probably put too much on my finger because this stuff is potent, but I'm gonna put a little bit on the center of my lid, and then I'm just gonna carefully tap around because I don't want it to completely cover everything else. And the other shimmers I used are pretty translucent. This one has a lot more opacity to it. That Flower Beauty formula is quite impressive. And could I have gotten a very similar look just using one goldish shadow? Yeah, I could, but I have a lot of eyeshadow and I do think it adds something a little unique and special when I add more than one shade. So sue me. It makes me think of Michael Scott when he burns his foot and he's talking about how he likes bacon. He says, I like waking up to the smell of bacon, so sue me. The delivery of the line is so funny. I'll grab the Giant Wolves palette. Before I was mixing these two, I think I'm just gonna do this one. And I'm kind of using an angled brush that can deepen up that outer corner pretty well. So I'm just gonna use some of that and just see if I can't get it a tiny bit deeper. And I'm gonna go right over that shimmer shadow to help it blend better with this shade. Where the cool tones and the warm tones, they don't really mix very well. But if you do different formulas with the shimmers and the mattes, it's a lot easier than if I was trying to blend a cool toned blue matte with a yellow matte or something, because then you end up getting green. But when you blend with mattes and shimmers, where the shimmer is warm toned and the matte is cool toned, you don't run into as many issues with blending. I did a look kind of similar to this a couple weeks ago, and that's what made me want to do this again, because I really liked the color combo. I didn't use exactly the same shadows. I can do similar looks with various shadows I have, and it just depends on my mood and depends on what I feel like using. This is the Danessa Myricks Linework eyeliner, which was sent through Skeepers. Skeepers used to be called Octoly. I think the formula is pretty good on it. It's a liquid liner and it's got a brush tip, which I prefer usually to a felt tip, but there's something kind of wonky about what happened with mine, and I'll try to show you. All of the little hairs like popped out from the side, and I was careful when I put the lid on. So while I like the product, the issue is that I think this cap is a little bit narrow for the brush. So even though I was super careful putting it in, it has so many little fine, tiny brush hairs that they're like sticking straight up and I can't fix them. And they get worse every time I close it. And I do have a bit of a hood on my eye, so if I look straight into the mirror with my eye open, it's a lot easier to see where I want that wing to land. And per usual, it's getting a little bigger than I want it to be, but I'll work with it. And I kind of do the technique that Katie Jane Hughes has shared multiple times, and she's not the one that came up with it, but she is definitely who I associate that look with. You do your eyeliner so that your eye is open, your wing sits where you want it to, but then when you close it, you kind of get this kind of a shape. And it's different for every eye. In fact, my two eyes are not symmetrical, and so my wing will turn out a little bit different on this side, and I just kind of let it be. I know they're not going to be perfect and they're not going to be exactly symmetrical. And there's my shape that I need to fill in. Constantly checking to see if I'm still lined up with that light stand over there. For the inner corner, this is how far I'll go. It's a Super Shock from their Disney Princesses collection. I actually like this as a highlight on my face too. It is a very nice, perfect, neutral, champagne-y kind of color. It's really nice all over the lid. It's nice on my cheeks. I just want this to be just a tiny bit of light. I guess I can tell you things that I am interested in. I like music a lot. I play the piano and I sing. This is actually not my first YouTube channel. I'm currently 35 years old. When I was in my 20s, I had a vlog channel and I would post vlogs, and back then YouTube videos were short. Most of the time only, you know, less than 10 minutes long. And I would do little skits and vlogs and song covers. It hasn't even been that long since my last YouTube video. I do sometimes do songs still, but it's not a regular scheduled thing anymore. It used to be something I did a lot. I also was an English major in college. I would say my favorite things to read, I do like classic literature. I also really like mystery novels. And in recent years, I have gotten more interested in things like historical biographies and books on psychology, or I don't know, just I like anything where I can learn interesting facts. I've actually considered maybe at the end of my videos having my send-off be, you know, a fact that I can share, because I like podcasts and books and I like learning new things, and it might be fun to use that as a way of sharing fun things that I learn. I feel like I'm feeling a cat hair. My cats are not allowed in this room. I have 3 cats. Oh, I grabbed the wrong palette. FYI, these are all Salt New York products. Mine look dirty because I use them a lot and I like to mix the shades with my fingers. So I'll be right back. I have to grab a different palette. But yeah, regarding cats, I don't really let them in here much, and somehow I still find cat hairs in here all the time, especially on my brushes. I'll get a brush and I'll have it near my face, and then I just see this floating cat hair, and it blows my mind how their hair just gets everywhere. This is my other palette of Salt New York shades, just the ones that didn't fit in that other one. Sneaky Balm, the shade that I have is N12. So that's this, and then this is their highlight color is just called Beige, and it's a beautiful highlight. So I will just go in with my finger, and I really like using my fingers for base products. For the most part, that's what I do. You will see my favorite little Rare Beauty concealer brush in a minute that I will use for underneath my eyes. So this is N12. It's a really good shade for me. I'm getting a tiny bit tan this summer, so I think this is starting to get a little bit light for me. But I really like this. It kind of just perfects and color corrects without looking like tons of makeup. And that's why it's called Sneaky Balm. It is just a balmy formula. I think you can probably see it's a little shiny even in the pan. It's kind of it can look a little greasy on me occasionally. I will usually powder it depending on where I've applied it. But I am not big on doing a full base product all over my entire face. I think my skin is decent. I have some discoloration to my skin, but I don't think it's too noticeable, and I would rather my skin still look skin-like and not look like makeup than have it look like it's absolutely perfect in every way. So mostly I actually always focus my foundation here in this area, and that's because I do have discoloration there because I have Persian blood in my body. It's a weird way of saying that. My grandfather was from Iran. That's what I'm trying to say. And I inherited some hair. I get hair on my chin and on my face. And so I shave, and then I get like all these little razor bumps. That's what I'm trying to cover up and neutralize a little bit. So that's mostly the only place where I put Sneaky Balm most of the time if I'm doing this as my base product. And I do sometimes apply base products all over my face. You'll see me do that sometimes. But the base products I like usually are kind of more on the sheer side. Sheer and moisturizing. Like I like the Misha BB cream, and I have one from Makeup Forever that I like. I have one from Yensa that I like. I actually mix that usually with the Misha. The shade of the Misha BB cream that I have, I know it looks kind of gray, and I have olive undertones, so gray tones actually work pretty well on me, but I think I have warm olive undertones. My skin is light colored, but because I do have that Persian blood, I have some olive undertones. Anyway, the point is, I think there's a Misha BB cream color that's a little more yellow, and I think that's what I need. I'm gonna put my little Sneaky Balm thing back, and I hear they are releasing the Sneaky Balm with deeper pans, which I think is smart because I know mine, I have hit pan in it and I don't even feel like I've used it that much. Similar to my foundation preferences, with concealer, I don't want it to be really thick and noticeable. I'll just do like a little dab, and that was actually even more than I want. This one's from Bobbi Brown. It's the Skin Full Cover Concealer. This is another product I got through Skeepers. And also this one from Huda Beauty. This is the Faux Filter Concealer, and I am mixing them because the Huda one, a little bit too light for me, and the Bobbi Brown one is a little bit too deep. So when I mix the two, it makes a pretty good mix. I love this brush from Rare Beauty. Kind of want to try more of their brushes. I actually have not tried much Rare Beauty. I know that their products are pretty popular. I've really only used this brush, and I have one lip product from them, and I think that's it. Oh, and I've tried their mascara before. I got a sample size mascara, I think from Sephora. I think I got some kind of a deal where like if you put in a code or something, you got a sample sized mascara. So I have tried it. I do like their mascara and the lip oil I have from them. But yeah, I would like to try, I know their blushes, people seem to really love their blushes. I think for today, I don't really need to powder. I'm gonna get out that Salt New York palette so that I can use all of my messy shades. So for blush, I think I'm going to go, so this one is Sunburnt. I'm going to use a little bit of that. I probably will mix in some of this taupey shade. I think it's just called Taupe actually. I like this one as a contour. I also like mixing it with the blushes. This one is Cocoa. I kind of like to dibble dabble between these two and that one, which is why this white shade adjuster looks all kinds of gross. But do you know what? It works. So I just get my finger, just do this. I dibble back and forth, and then I kind of look at the shade on my finger and I decide from there, like, and you can see I've basically made the same shade before. But yeah, I'll just go back and forth between the taupe and the cocoa and sunburnt and white until I get a shade that just looks like what I want on my cheeks for that day. And I really like that about the Salt New York products. Very user-friendly, very easy to use, and super customizable. So yeah, kind of a subtle mauve tone. I think it works. And something else I like about not using that much foundation product, and I guess having dry skin and my moisturizers sinking into my skin pretty well. Most of the time I don't need to set my cream products before putting on powder. I'm pretty careful about the way I apply powder though, I will say that. I don't really brush, I kind of dab. I pat back and forth when I apply blush and bronzer over my creams. But I'm gonna go over that with the Nabla Skin Glazing. This shade is Independence. Kind of has a taupe undertone almost, but then the reflect of it is a little bit more of a pink. So I'm just gonna go over the top of that and I just lightly tap. These Nabla blushes are pretty impactful. They've got a little bit of a shimmer to them, and I also think they give you quite a bit of color. So I don't want to do too much more than that. Also, FYI, there's always other products on my brushes. I very rarely am going to be starting with clean brushes. You know, they're not disgustingly dirty, they're just stained a little bit. If I started using this brush and didn't apply any extra product on it, I don't think much would come off. I'm also going to use a Nabla product for my bronzer. This is kind of almost more of a contour shade than a bronzer, but it's Soft Revenge is the color. And you can see I've used this one quite a bit. I'm surprised actually that this, I wonder if it's the formula or something, this one has gotten more worn down in the pan than my blushes, because I also have the blush in Truth, their Privilege highlighter, which is a peach pink. I like this Soft Revenge shade because it isn't super strong. I actually have to apply quite a bit, and I like it because it is easy to blend. It looks really natural on my skin. I think it's a good undertone for me. So I use it kind of in the same place as I would just put bronzer, but it's sort of a bronzer contour hybrid, I would say. And I shared a few things that I like. I would love to know more about you if you want to share in the comments. If we have any interests in common, if you also like music or photography or tapioca pudding, cool tones and warm tones, or if you have cats, dogs, what pets do you have? Or if you like learning interesting facts about things. I was listening to a podcast the other day that was about the life of Johann, I can't remember, Gutenberg, the guy who printed the Gutenberg Bibles. That was pretty interesting. Apparently, there's kind of some juicy stories there where people were suing him left and right and he wasn't delivering, I guess. Like, I think people were investing in his products and he was taking a long time to get things done. And anyway, there were some crazy lawsuits and stuff. Maybe that will be your fact of the day. And my understanding is that actually in the lawsuit, he ended up losing all of his equipment. Everything that he had designed for the printing press went to some other guy who sued him and was upset because he had put money in on the project and it wasn't done in time or something. Interesting stuff in history. The tea is not new in our day and time. The tea has always been here. I used to just curl my lashes just once, but I learned that if you go up and down your eyelash, you get more of a curl instead of just a bend. Oh, I grabbed this. I thought it was mascara, but it's actually a brow product. So I'm gonna go grab my mascara. Fun fact, my vanity is actually over here off screen. So I grab my stuff out of my vanity. I grab the products that I need like every few steps and I bring them over here on this little bookshelf next to me. This one actually is a mascara, the Cali Ray one, and it's a tubing mascara, which I don't know how I feel about it. I think it gives me a good result, I think, but I have been surprised at how much I haven't really liked the removal process, actually. When I use my other mascaras, whether they're waterproof or not waterproof, I use Pond's cold cream to remove my makeup before I do my cleansing, and it does a really good job of taking off basically anything. Every single product I've ever tried to remove using that. For some reason, with this mascara, it just doesn't get all of it. I have to do it as its own separate step. So it actually takes me longer to remove my makeup because I have to remove this with just warm water in my fingers. And then I use the Pond's cold cream to remove the rest. All I'm saying is it's easier to get other mascaras off, even sometimes ones that are waterproof. Anyway, that's been my experience. I think it gives me really good volume. It builds up nicely. It does take me a while to build it up, but I think I just take a long time to apply mascara. I don't know how many coats I do. I don't know what counts as a coat. Is a coat every time you dip in to the mascara tube? Or is a coat every single time you touch your lashes? Because I think I just applied 50 coats or 3, depending on how you count the coats. This is the Makeup Forever liner. You can use it basically everywhere, but I only use it as a lip liner. And this is the shade Endless Cacao, which Katie Jane Hughes uses all the time and I really enjoy. So, and then I'm going to use actually another lip liner. This one is the Natasha Denona liner from the My Dream collection. And with this one, I will go closer to the edge of my lip over here on these corners. And then I'm just gonna blend a little bit. We're also gonna go in with the Natasha Denona My Dream lipstick. After I do lip liner, I like to blend. Do you ever have brushes where you just don't know how to use them? You're like, what is this brush even for? Like, I'm never gonna use this. This brush was like that for me for such a long time. This is from an Eco Tools brush set. It was one of the first brush sets I ever got. And I could not figure out for the life of me what I could possibly use this brush for because it was so dense and thick. And like every time I would use it to apply eyeshadow, it's a pencil brush of sorts, but it's just really thick and dense. And I'd use it for eyeshadow and it would just look terrible. Like so much fallout, like it just wouldn't, the shadow wouldn't stick to this brush, and I'd use it on my eyes and it was just like so big and awkward. And what I have discovered just in like maybe the last year or something like that, is that it is the perfect brush for like blending lip products. So that's all I use it for. I use it to blend my lip line. If I use lip liners, I also use it for, like I really like those Kaleidos lip clays, and I'll use it to blend those at the edges to kind of make a blurred lip. And then this is the Natasha Denona My Dream lipstick. This lipstick and the lip liner were actually also from Skeepers. It's interesting on there because sometimes there's like nothing that I'm interested in getting. And every once in a while, they'll have like really good products, but they go really quick. So there was this one day that was so magical where I got onto Skeepers and the top 3 products just said new Natasha Denona release, and it didn't say what they were. And I was super fast. Like as soon as I saw them pop up, I like requested all of them, and they were just for Sephora review too. So all I had to do to receive them was write a review for Sephora. The Natasha Denona lipstick is what one of the things was, and then the other thing was the lip liner, and the other thing was the My Dream palette. So I got all 3 of those items just as like Skeepers products, which was pretty magical. And I do really like them. It's a perfect like mauve neutral for me. And I'm gonna take that same brush I was using before and just kind of like dab a little bit. I prefer my lip line to be tiny bit blurred because I don't have super voluminous lips. My lips aren't super small, but they're pretty flat. I feel like it's more flattering for me to do a softer lip line. And I think that's the makeup look. So I will go take out the little clips in my hair and we'll do just a finished closeout of the video. One of my lights just went out, but this is the finished look. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope to see you again here soon.